On this episode of Mom Sipping Sangria,
as frustrating and challenging and kind of those moments that we get a little bit in our heads about where we are at and where we're going, we are saved by the amount of content that can occupy our time. And a lot of that content can be used for good.
I'm good. Let's do it.
Well, hello again, isolated friends, and welcome to another episode of Mom's Sipping Sangria. I'm Sheila Walsh.
And I'm Anita Reynolds MacArthur. And if you celebrate Easter, we hope you had a wonderful Easter weekend.
Yeah, and if you're observing Passover, a happy Passover to you as well.
Today, since we're still self-isolating and recording in our separate locations, Sheila and I have each made ourselves our own single-serve sangria for one, with strawberries and orange and a little rum and Pinot Grigio.
And actually, you know what I'm using over on this end? I'm using low sugar Sauvignon because I don't know about you, Anita, but I'm pecking at food all day. So I'm trying to cut sugar and carbs where I can. And you can get some nice low sugar wines. So I'm using a low one. I think after all this is said and done with our self-isolation and social distancing and working from home, a lot of, dietitians and trainers are going to be having some good business because everybody I know is saying like, oh yeah, all I'm doing is eating.
Yeah, no kidding. That's one thing we are very lucky with is that food is not in short supply, knock on wood,
yes,
that does stay that way. Mm-hmm. But so in terms of isolation and social distancing, or as people are liking to call it now, physical distancing, because we can still do social via Zoom and other places like that. Mm-hmm. How are things going for you, Sheila?
We're managing just fine and dandy and taking little pieces of life and finding some humor in it. The other day, my neighbor comes out of, his garage and he's like, the wife, she's making me crazy. And then, Greg's like, I can't help you there. My wife's right here. Because, he was looking to complain about wives, but he didn't see me there. And the kids started online school and online piano lessons where we picked up Crokinole, which is a board game really popular down east. And we've been playing that. That's a lot of fun. We did a down home kitchen party via Zoom with our relatives in Nova Scotia. And I have a really quick, funny little story. As you know, people are now forced to spend a lot of time together in the same household, and things that would normally probably not bother you are suddenly starting to make you crazy. Like this, for example, Greg the other day. So I have these slippers. I'm going to actually take a picture of these slippers and we're going to post them on our Instagram. I have these slippers and the reason I wear these slippers is because I used to fall down the stairs a lot in my other slippers. So I bought slippers with like they're hard
really
soles.
Good grip.
Yeah, good grip. Mm-hmm. So Greg goes to the chair and he falls over these slippers. And so this would not normally happen, but because we're in each other's space all day, he decided to lose it about the slippers. And he says, oh my God, I hate the look of these things. I hate the sound of these things. I hate everything about these things. When you're coming down the hall, it sounds like you're a murderer coming to kill me. He said, if I'm downstairs in the studio and I've got a glass of water and you're walking upstairs, the water starts to shake like you're a velociraptor. He loses it on my slippers. And I'm just looking at him going, oh my God, we gotta get out of this house. Anyway, so that's us. What about you guys? How are you guys managing?
Nice segue there, Sheila. Yeah, I know. We're all living in such close quarters. And I mean, for you, there's 5 in your family, there's 5 in mine. So we are just kind of tripping over each other. We're doing okay. I think we kind of went through a little bit of what you're going through now in the first couple of weeks as we were all adjusting. But right now, knock on wood, seems to be like that's not too bad. I do have 2 little stories I'm going to mention. We actually also do the Zoom. We call it after dinner cocktails with family. Yeah, so we've got Montreal on there and Toronto and where we are in Ajax, and we do that. We also have a Zoom with people overseas as well, which is kind of cool. So trying to orchestrate that timing is interesting, but it's, we did it once and we'll try it again next weekend. But my 2 stories. So one of them, my wonderful neighbor next door, she texts me, she's like, stupid question, are you home? Because of course, I'm home right now, right?
Where are you going to be?
So I'm like, yes, I am. So she said, I have a flat of eggs for you if you want it. They're farm fresh eggs. So I'm like, oh, well, that's really nice. Thanks for thinking of us. So she said, okay, well, my son's going to come by and he's going to drop them outside your door, and only the farmer has touched them. So I'm like, okay, cool. So he drops them off, and then I open the door, and now I don't know about you, but I know what a dozen eggs are. I didn't realize a flat is actually 36 eggs.
Wow,
So,
I didn't realize that either.
so there's this big pallet of eggs sitting there. I'm like, oh my gosh, how the heck are we going to get through this? So I texted her back and I said, thank you very much, for the eggs. And I said, really not sure how we're going to get through these before they go bad. She says, well, he came home with 120 eggs. So I'm trying to find homes for all these eggs because there was apparently a shortage of eggs in the stores. And so he was out and he came across this farm and he just bought like a ton of them, which was really sweet of him to do. So I said, well, we're all living in close quarters. We start eating these eggs, this house is going to stink. Like, I don't know what. So she says, well, I have an idea for you. We make bran muffins out of it. And I'm like, bran muffins? What are you trying to do to us here?
I just said it stunk. What's wrong with you?
But as it turns out, we actually did go through the whole, because they were so fresh. They tasted delicious. And so, Hayden actually got into it and he made dinner for everybody one night, made these fantastic eggs with a bunch of stuff thrown into them and then put them into wraps. It was awesome. So that's my one story. Thank you very much to my lovely neighbor. She knows who she is. And then the other one is Ian. Last night, he comes downstairs where I was sitting and he's got this long face. And I'm like, what's up? And he goes, well, Ava and I have equally suffered the pain of disappointment at the hands of COVID-19. Oh my God, what is going on?
Is that a statement he's releasing?
So Ava, our lovely daughter, who's 17 years old, was set to go on a trip to Europe with the school, and she was going to go to Germany and Poland, visit Auschwitz, the Netherlands. It was a fantastic trip, and of course that's been canceled in light of our situation. Aww. And I'm like, okay, so what's going on with you? I'm looking all serious. He's like, the soda stream I got at Christmas? I'm like, yeah. He says, the canister ran out. I can't go to Best Buy and refill it.
The drama, the crime. It's the little things that count, right, Anita?
I know. It took him the evening to get past that, but I think he's going to be okay.
That's funny.
For sure.
So now you are doing, I know you're a big reader. I can maybe read 2 books a year because I get real ADD with books. I have to, I'll read it and then the next night I'm like, who is that character? And I have to go back. And so it takes me a long time. I'm reading one right now called Eleanor Oliphant is Perfectly All Right or something like that. It's a really good book. But what would you recommend for some choices to read? Because I know you're an avid reader and you're also in the publishing world. So what should we be looking for, man?
I've come up with 3 different ones. So there's an old one that's a memoir, oldish, and then one that's out right now, and then another one that's a self-help. So the first one is called The Glass Castle, and it's by Jeanette Walls. It's a memoir. It's from 2005. It was turned into a movie starring Brie Larson, Naomi Watts, and Woody Harrelson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a true story and very, very poor family. The dad is an alcoholic. There's 4 children. Both parents, they believe, they never got tested, but believe are bipolar. Within the first 5 years of the parents' marriage, they moved 25 times because he felt that the FBI was after them. The writer is a journalist and she's worked for many different big newspapers and things like that, news magazines. But it's a really good read. It's a total page turner.
Cool.
Yeah. The second book I cannot put down, except I don't have a lot of time to read. So I'm literally treating this as though I have a baby and I'm carrying it around from room to room. And any chance I get, yeah, it's really good. So it's called American Dirt. And it's by Janine Cummins. This book is so well written. It brings tears to your eyes. It makes you happy, sad. It shocks you. Within 10 pages, I was completely hooked on this book. So that's definitely one that I would recommend. Cool. That is new out on the market now. And then my last one would be, it's a self-help. You Are a Badass.
Oh my God, I love You Are a Badass.
Isn't that amazing? It's by Jen Sincero. Yep. And it's like a motivational book. It helps you stop doubting your greatness and start living an awesome life. I just could not put that one down either. It was a really quick read too.
I actually got the audio book. Took Elle to the library because she wanted to go to the library before all this was happening, when we could still visit places like that. And when something kind of just all of a sudden presents itself and you're supposed to be. So, I'm like, I'm not going to get anything anything out. But then all of a sudden, I see this You're a Badass audio. I'm like, oh, maybe I can listen to that driving around or whatever. So I would sit in my car and listen to this because I was so hooked on it. She makes so much sense. She's raw. She's funny. I cannot say enough about this too. And I don't know what the book version is, but if the audiobook was fantastic. I've told Greg he needs to listen to it, so he's listening to it too as well.
Yeah, well, in terms of libraries, I believe it's called Overdrive, at least for the library in our area, where you can download the app and you can, instead of having a CD of all these audio books, you can actually download the audio and listen to it that way on your iPods and phones and all that kind of stuff. So
very good. Okay, cool. And of course, I don't know about you, but watching lots of TVs and movies and really obscure things. We caught a Tamil movie the other day. Didn't know what they were saying.
Tamil movie?
Yeah, I didn't know what they were saying, but the dance,
for you.
Yeah, we were just kind of buzzing around. Actually, my son Miles is really into all sorts of different films. So, he kind of landed on it, and then the effects were horrible, but the dancing was so good. So he actually ended up finishing it and said it was actually a pretty good movie.
Good for him.
So, the point being, once you exhaust regular cable, there are endless things to watch. If you have, of course, something like Netflix or Amazon Prime or one of the specialty channels, it can be really overwhelming because there's a lot of stuff out there. So Anita and I thought, hey, let's sort through these hundreds and hundreds of choices and go to an expert and ask for some must-see social isolation viewing. That's a mouthful.
Yes, and we're so excited to have this person here with us today, entertainment expert Teri Hart. How are you? And welcome to Mom Sipping Sangria.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, we're so glad you could join us. Not that any of us are going anywhere anytime soon.
I mean, it's something, though, as frustrating and challenging and kind of those moments that we get a little bit in our heads about where we are at and where we're going, which I don't think any of us know, we are saved by the amount of content that can occupy our time. And a lot of that content can be used for good, There's a lot out there right now that can make us smarter, can make us feel big feelings, can make us look at the world in a different way. And we've got some time, so why not sit down and kind of open yourself up to things that maybe you wouldn't have had time to delve into before.
That's true, because there are so many things out there. So we just kind of have to figure out, where to start it.
So, Teri, where shall we start then? Movies, TV?
Well, I don't want anybody to be super overwhelmed. So I'm not going to tell anybody to start watching something that has 20 seasons and you've got hundreds of hours to watch. The first thing I'm going to recommend is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's recent. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's called Wild Rose. Wild Rose is a movie that I fell in love with at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2018. And when I saw it, I thought, this is going the distance. This is going to have Oscar nominations. It ended up being nominated and winning some BAFTAs, which are the British equivalent of the Academy Awards. But it kind of fizzled out here in North America. And that happens sometimes with smaller movies, but it's sitting there for you to enjoy on Amazon Prime right now. It stars Jessie Buckley, and for anybody who watched Chernobyl, which was on HBO or Crave in Canada, you'll recognize her from that. She plays a sort of ne'er-do-well Scottish girl. When we first meet her, she's getting out of jail for a petty drug crime. She's a single mother of 2 children. And all she wants to do is run off to Nashville and be a country singer. And it sounds kind of like, I don't know if I want to go there. But you do want to go there because you'll be so surprised at how your allegiance to Rose kind of shifts and molds throughout the movie. I find myself actually, believe it or not, hoping that she could get to Nashville. And we don't see that for moms very often in movies, right? We see them, the big reward is being the great mother. And in this, the reward is her following her dream. I'm not going to tell you if she goes to Nashville or not. That would be a spoiler. Everybody I've recommended this movie to has absolutely loved it. Wild Rose you can watch with a family. That's completely safe family viewing and actually could bring up some interesting conversations.
Okay.
So it's called Wild Rose on Amazon Prime.
Wild Rose, Amazon Prime. Cool. Okay, what else you got for us?
Sex education, if you have a really, really open household, you could watch it with your teenagers. Frankly, your teenagers have probably already watched it. It is Gillian Anderson, who we remember from X-Files, but she's nothing like her character in X-Files. She plays a sex therapist who's a single mom to Asia Butterfield, and he is a 17-year-old boy who discovers he actually gives pretty good sex advice in high school. So he starts underground pay sex advice business at his high school with his friend Maeve, who he has a crush on. And there's a lot of sex talk in it. It's very, very out there and bold about sex. So if you don't have a very open household, if that's not something, if that would make you uncomfortable with your kids, don't watch it with them. But I love this series. It's 2 seasons right now. It's on Netflix. You're going to fall in love with all of these characters. Asia Butterfield's best friend, Eric, is a very out gay character who I cannot wait for season 3 because I miss Eric in my life so much. It's one of those series that you'll just fall in love with. And, you learn things. And for me, I'm 48 years old, and I think this is how kids are talking about sex now, and which is very different from when I was a teenager and when I was in high school. So I think that, they're very open. They talk about all kinds of sex. And I think that it's, kind of informational for parents as well as being really, really entertaining.
Yeah, I'm going to have to, I'm the kind of parent that gets really uncomfortable when the scenes come up and I'm watching stuff with my kids. I fast forward it or say, you guys watch that on your own. So maybe independent viewing for both of us, but it does sound super interesting.
Yeah, it's great. And it is absolutely entertaining. And Gillian Anderson is a fantastic character as a sex therapist in it.
I love Gillian Anderson. I was a huge X-Files fan.
Aha. I always love it when we get to see actors that we love playing a character that's so different than what we first fell in love with them for. And this is a very, very different character for her.
Yeah.
Okay, we mentioned Amazon Prime. We've mentioned Netflix. Is there something maybe on Crave that you could recommend?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things on Crave. So Years and Years. This is a spectacular 6-part series, 1-hour episodes each. It stars Emma Thompson as a kind of alt-right-wing politician in the not-so-distant future. So it starts in 2019, quickly jumps to 2024, and then the 6 seasons take us through 1 year each, and we end up in 2029. This isn't sci-fi. It's in the very, very near future. So everything they're doing, how they're interacting with technology, how they're interacting with each other, how they're interacting within their homes, seems very familiar. It's just a little bit heightened. And it's dealing with issues that we are talking about every day now. So everything from immigration issues to banking crises to major countries leaving long institutions like the EU and the UN. And it's all told through the lens of this one family, the Lyons family. There are 4 siblings, and then their spouses and the matriarch of the family, who is their grandmother. If you're having super anxiety around this self-isolation time and COVID-19 and the pandemic that we're living in right now, this might not be for you. It might be a little bit triggering, but for anybody who is just kind of interested in the possibilities of what all this is not dealing with a health pandemic, but it is dealing with politics and finances and the stress of the time. And again, this is kind of flown under the radar a little bit. I could talk about Tiger King. I can talk about, Ozark and all those shows that everybody know, but I'm trying to kind of get people interested in things that might have flown under the radar.
That's so cool. And you're right, because, when we called you originally, you had both just finished Ozark, and I'm watching season 2, and then we talked about the Tiger King. And you're right, everybody kind of defaults to these go-to things. So this is great that you're giving us, the more obscure, overlooked ones. Are there other things that you want to put on our radar?
Well, on the opposite side of the spectrum, we just saw the series finale of Schitt's Creek. Mm-hmm. And this is a show that all Canadians should be so, super proud of. It's a show that is made here by Canadians. It's incredibly funny. It is broken through universally and especially in America in such an incredible way. Dan Levy, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Annie Francis, they're all incredible talents. Emily Hampshire as well. And they're short, right? They're less than half-hour episodes. So you can plow through the seasons quite quickly. Really fun to watch with the family. It's just a remarkable success story for Canadian talent.
I remember them at the Emmys and how they were so well received, and like they were rock stars in that audience, which I found so interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Emmys, Eugene and Dan, they opened the show and it was kind of like, we're your non-host hosts, right? And it was amazing the reception they received. And it was wonderful to see that. I was thrilled for them. And I've been a fan of the show from day one. And now that it's getting all this kind of hoopla around it ending, I think people are just starting to catch on to it, or some people are. And it's a high recommend for me.
And Teri, what about just a few others? Just throw them out there and we'll look into them ourselves.
Parasite's going to be coming on streaming services at the end of April, and you could go back and watch some Bong Joon-ho movies. Both Snowpiercer and Okja are on Netflix. They're directed by him, and they're not in Korean. They are English movies if you have an adversity to subtitles. There's a great 6-part comedy, dramedy series called Feel Good with a Canadian comedian by the name of Mae Martin. And if you want a really interesting documentary, I was fascinated by this doc on Crave called McMillions. Remember when McDonald's used to do the Monopoly game?
Yes.
It was a scam, guys.
Well, I'm glad I didn't play it then.
Yeah. Seriously.
Why?
I thought it was a scam in Canada, but there was a huge scam about it in the United States. And this kind of peels back all the layers, and it really makes you look at the fact of, some criminals who think it's a victimless crime. Really, this guy who did this, and I'm, again, not going to tell you who it is. You got to watch it because it's fascinating who this guy is. He ruined businesses. Thousands of people lost jobs because of the Monopoly McDonald's scam.
No way. So McMillions.
Yeah. That's on Crave.
Cool.
Crave here in Canada, and if anybody's listening anywhere else, HBO.
And one thing that's been hit hard is theater releases, right? Like I know that so many people, and myself included, Anita, I know you like to go out to the theater and see movies. I was really looking forward to Quiet Place 2 and the new Bond one, and there's so many movies that now have been delayed. What do we know about what's happening with them, Teri?
Oh, it's a bit of a, chase the dancing ball because it's a really complicated issue. The theater business, movie business is going to be one of the hardest hit businesses in this entire pandemic, I think. We don't actually know. They changed Fast and Furious to be 2021, and they stayed with that date. But, Quiet Place 2, they didn't even put a date for it because we just don't know when this is going to end. It's going to be a graduated kind of return to normal. And the problem is when you have a movie that costs as much money and is expected to make as much money as Top Gun, I'll use that as an example, or the Bond movie, those studios aren't going to give that movie to exhibitors when exhibitors are only allowed to sell 50% of the seats. Because that's a big financial difference in terms of how much money that movie will make at the theater. So I don't know. I wish I had an answer. I wish I had a crystal ball. I miss going to the movies. I think I used to average, 2 or 3 movies a week.
Wow.
And I miss movies terribly. It's a huge kind of gap in my life. I want to sit in the theater and have the lights go dim and watch those trailers and ooh and ah and gasp and cry and laugh with a group of people. That to me is a wonderful community experience, and it's something that I don't think we can replicate with any other entertainment experience.
Definitely tough for those of us who love going to movie theaters. But as you mentioned, Teri, lots of at-home theater selections. So at least we have things to keep us entertained until the new normal happens.
Now you have a fun feature called Live at 5, and it's on Instagram. And I believe it's done twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And I caught you last week. I thought it was fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how people can tune in?
Sure can. Thanks so much for mentioning it. It's been really fun for me. So I was an entertainment reporter for 25 years. You know, I use a hashtag all the time, hashtag movies matter, and also hashtag TV matters, because it can take us to really great emotional places and teach us interesting things. So I haven't had a traditional job for a while, and when all this started, and social isolation and physical distancing started becoming the new normal and the new must, I saw everybody doing workout videos and cooking videos. I'm not doing a workout video. That's not really in my wheelhouse. You know, I walk around the block every day, but I think nobody needs a video of that. But what I'm great at, and what I thought I could help people with, is just exactly what we've been talking about here today, is letting people know what's out there for them and why it might be something that they want to have in their life in terms of entertainment. I do it every Monday and Thursday at 5 o'clock. They always live in my stories for 24 hours, and I'm thinking I'm going to start putting them on a YouTube channel.
That is a great idea. That is a great idea. So, Teri, we can't thank you enough for joining us today. Happy social isolating. We are...
Yeah, you too. Bake some sourdough bread. That's what we're all supposed to do, right?
Oh, is that right? Okay, we'll do that. And we are raising our sangria to you, and thank you for your time today. Now, other than your Instagram, do you have any other social platforms that we can just plug?
Yeah, I'm at Teri Hart everywhere, TeriHart.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Teri, and stay safe and well.
Thank you guys so much. I enjoyed the podcast a lot. I look forward to next episodes.
Okay, Anita, so it's time to either vent or compliment, where we either raise a glass or take a pass. I think we'd both like to raise a glass to Teri Hart. Hashtag movies matter, hashtag TV matters. Some great ideas for small screen watching, especially those obscure ones. I thought those were great. So, Miss Anita, what or who would you like to raise a glass to?
Well, I'm going to take my sangria and I'm going to raise a glass to all the educators, teachers, students, parents, and caregivers who are settling into our new normal with online learning. One thing I'm going to mention within that is that my son Campbell, I'm going to raise a little glass to him as well, actually a really big one. He was a struggling learner for all of his elementary and high school years. He's now graduating from George Brown College, and he's graduating on the dean's list.
Oh,
phenomenal. So I just want to say to parents who are worried about their kids, you know, and the marks that they're getting, and even going through this time that we're going through right now, the hiccups, all that, you know, as long as your child is trying, that's all you can ask for. And as long as they're trying, they will succeed. Because Campbell now, he's like, Mom, I can't believe it. I'm on the dean's list. This is amazing. You know what? Kudos to him. So hats off to all the educators, teachers, students, parents, and caregivers, and also to our son Campbell for graduating on the dean's list.
I'm so happy for Campbell. He's such a nice kid. Well done, guys.
Thank you. I think he's done fantastic.
And what are you going to take a pass at, Miss Anita?
Okay, so my pass goes back a ways, and I actually do still really like this friend, but what happened here in this particular instance, I'm going to give her a pass on. So we knew each other in junior high and high school, and then we kind of ended up parting ways for a bit when we went to our different respective schools, universities, and I bumped into her on the street. I was living in Montreal at the time, and I was like, oh my gosh, and we, how are you? And we had just graduated in chemical engineering, and she let me know that. And so then she goes, hey, I got a joke for you. And I said, okay, what? And she said, what's the first thing that a newly graduated English major says? So I'm like, I don't know. And she says, will you take fries with that?
Ooh.
Right? So then and then ha, ha, ha. And then she said, so what are you doing? And I said, I'm a newly graduated English major.
Tell me that she ate crow right then and there.
Oh my gosh. She totally tried to backpedal, but it was too late. But I laughed it off. I knew what she was like. And, we still are in contact today, but that was, I could have really given her a hard time on that, and I let it go.
A lot of people, the foot's in the mouth a lot, right? You got to be careful with stuff like that.
No kidding.
So we're taking a pass at her.
And so what about you, Sheila? Who are you taking a pass at?
Well, everybody out there is doing pretty good job, but there are still people who don't understand social distancing. So I had to do a Costco run, right? Because like you and I said, we have 5 people in our house here going through food, burning through it. So I'm like, I'm going to do a Costco run once a month. And so I went in and we're all lined up, 2 lines like around the parking lot. It was crazy. It took me almost an hour to get in, but it was fine. Go in, and there was this couple, and he was doing his part. You know, we were a safe distance apart, but the wife, and she was wearing a blue leather jacket. Every time I turned a corner, I saw this blue leather jacket, and I'm like, lady, and she would like come right up to where you were, just completely ignoring the social distancing. And I know that's happening less and less, but the people who are still really oblivious are making me crazy, because I'm getting the Costco order, then I have to go to my 90-year-old mother's place and drop it off to her. I don't want to transfer anything. So I just, people who aren't cognizant of their movements, I think I'm going to take a pass on. And I know it's difficult. I understand that, but it's still something that we really have to do. So
I've been able to avoid Costco up to this point, but I am planning on getting out there tomorrow. So wish me luck.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah. And so what about raising a glass? Who are you going to raise a glass to this week, Sheila?
Well, I think once again, as we mentioned on the last episode, you know, all the frontline workers, all the volunteers, all the people thinking about how they can help other people. And you see these really inspirational stories of people volunteering and thinking about things that outside of just their own survival. They're trying to do things to help people. And I just hats off to everybody who, I just think there's so many great people doing great things in this time. So hats off to all of them.
I agree 100%. Raising a glass from Ajax. Okay, time to break out the bizarre. This is where Sheila and I search for a really bizarre story and spring it on each other, usually leading into the thought, seriously?
Seriously? Yes. So it's my turn this week, Anita. Okay, so this is a short but sweet story. It comes from the Manchester Inklink. Caught my eye because my husband and your husband, Anita, love their music, right? And they love to play their music loudly.
Oh, do they ever? At like 2:00 in the morning when we're trying to wind down.
My guy, especially outside on the deck on a nice summer day. And it's a bit of a sore spot with he and I, because I don't like overwhelming sounds, right? So I'm always turning things down and shushing people. So this story, I got to get where this guy was coming from, okay? So we're heading to Manchester, New Hampshire, where a man went down the hall in his apartment building, knocked on his neighbor's door, and asked the neighbor to turn down his music. I totally get that.
Totally.
Well, the neighbor, 47-year-old Ben Leyland, was not happy about being told to turn down his music. So instead of saying no or buzz off or whatever else, Leyland grabbed a 2.5-foot sword and chased this guy back down the hall. The guy who was chased, who was not named, by the way, he got away without being hurt, and Ben was charged with criminal threatening, and we don't know what the outcome of the charge was, but hopefully Ben will keep his freaking music down now. Can you believe that? Seriously.
Oh, that's just nuts. Seriously? Like, I mean, do you have to take to that level? Oh, gosh. I remember before getting married and that I lived with my sister, we had someone who lived below us who also was blasting their music. And first we were jumping up and down to try and get their attention, you know, thumping. Maybe they would realize, oh, I got to turn this down. And they weren't doing it. So we went downstairs, knocked on the door, and we expected it would totally be a guy that was going to open the door. It was a woman, and she had 2 little kids, and they were totally like bopping around, but it was like headbanging music. And we were just like, this does not match. What is happening here?
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, people love their music and they want to share their music, but yeah, I've always been someone who just like, you just need to hear it. The world doesn't need to hear it. So I understand.
Okay, well, if you want to join us on anything you've heard so far, we would certainly love to hear from you. Contact us on our website, momssipping.sangria.com. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
We are Mom Sipping Sangria. All right, time to go to confession, where you come clean on something that you have been hiding away. Anita, let's hear it. It's you this time.
Okay, so I'm going to keep going with track of that friend that I knew from high school, since she started bringing up some great memories.
She really got under your skin.
I'm amazed that I still love this person. So we were in junior high together, and being from Quebec, we were in a French school and we were transferring into an English high school. So we arrived in grade 9, where the high school was already in full swing. And so we were meeting new people. And I ended up being the first of the two of us to get a boyfriend. Ooh. And so, of course, we were naturally hanging out with his friends because we didn't know anybody there. I would say about 2 months into that, she said, you know what, we're not meeting anybody else. You have to break up with this guy. And I was like, but he's really nice and his friends are nice. And she was like, Anita, we need to meet more people. You've got to break up with this guy. So poor guy, I was like, torn between the two of them. But I mean, obviously she was my friend for so many years. So I broke up with him, and he was like, what? I thought things were going good. And I'm like, I can't really explain it. It's just something I have to do, blah, blah, blah. And so poor guy, I let him go. We broke for Christmas. Came back in the new year, and sitting in class, and my friend walks in. She sits down, and I'm like, oh man, someone had a good holiday break. She had a huge hickey on her neck.
Oh my gosh.
And I totally didn't clue into it. And I'm like, wow, oh, look at you, da da da. And she's like, leave me alone, don't want to talk about it. The two of them had hooked up over the holidays.
No. No.
And she stayed with his group throughout the rest of high school.
Do you think she was trying to do that originally to you break up with him so she could get with him?
You know what? I never did ask her that question because I still liked her, and I have to sit with myself for it, even back then, and kind of go, you know what? If you really, really like this guy, you would have told her, screw it, stay, I'm doing this, and you can either stay my friend or whatever. But I did break up with him, and you know what? They did last throughout the rest of high school. It worked out for them, but I was just like so funny. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at you. You've got a hickey on your neck. Who did that?
Now, I know you can see me, Anita, through our messenger. Look at my face. My mouth, my jaw is dropped. I can't believe the gall of her. Do you still see this chick?
Well, she's still in Montreal, but we have stayed friends. Oh. And it's really kind of interesting because my eldest and her youngest were born on the same day, same year.
Oh my god!
Just as a complete fluke.
That is a fluke.
Yeah.
Well, I would still have issues. Woman scorned. Oh my gosh! Good for you being the bigger person. There you go. It all worked out in the end because you have 3 beautiful children with your lovely husband, Ian. Very good. Very good.
So not harboring any resentment at all.
Clearly not. You totally forgot about it.
It's like a therapy session. Thanks, Sheila.
Anytime. Okay. Well, thank you for letting us hang out with you. And we're hoping you're staying well and healthy and hopefully taking a moment here and there to breathe as well. We're all kind of being forced into a bit of downtime. So, go with it, because before you know it, life will be crazy and busy and noisy again. Although it seems like it's going to be a graduated process, but it's going to happen one day.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And that's right. So before we go, we'll leave you with an end quote. Sheila has it this episode.
I do. Stop being afraid of what can go wrong and start being positive about what can go right. Who do you think said that?
Gail King.
Gail King is a good guess. Do you know who said that?
Who said that, Sheila?
I have no idea.
What do you mean?
You know when you see these quotes?
Can't leave us hanging?
You know when you see these quotes and it says unknown? That is from the famous quoter Unknown. But I thought it was good. I thought it was very relevant for this specific time in our lives.
There is no closure.
Never.
This is not good.
Alrighty, well, that's it for now. Till next time, have a good one and stay healthy.
Have a good one. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
We are Moms Sipping Sangria. Blooper time, and we are far from perfect, as you can tell. Yeah, right on. Hang on. All right. Woo! Oh my God. That's why I don't wear turtlenecks, because I look like I'm about to punch someone out with my boobs.
Whew, okay. Now I got to see your lovely face, so I got to figure out how to do this.
I just drooled. See that?
Just getting purtier and purtier. Whatever.
Right above
I
me.
could hear that, yeah. I heard it
I
too.
told them, don't flush while I'm down here.
Oh, okay.
I have a numb bomb too, so I'm using this as an excuse to get up. For sponsorship opportunities, email us at momssipping@gmail.com. Mom Sipping Sangria is produced by Elm Podcasting.
Cha-cha-cha.
Keep going.
Woohoo. Hello.
Yeah.